what feedback means to you, and it's shifting your mindset. We need to reframe how feedback in our organizations, and it starts with you as the business owner, as the leader, on how you look at feedback. Your team, your employees must see progress. Your customers must see progress. And that's the point here when we talk about acting on the data that you're gathering and then being able to be agile enough to where you can change things up. Hey everyone, John here. Welcome to today's episode. Why do we dread feedback so much? I don't know. You are the only one that can answer that question. Today, I'm going to try to unravel this whole concept of feedback. And we're going to get into some pretty tough conversations around feedback. Even the word feedback puts people in that fight or flight mode. People even change the word to like, hey, I want to share some information. That's still feedback. We're just fluffing it up. So if you're experiencing this in your organization, with your team, in your business, these practical tips, these strategies are going to help you deliver that feedback. A lot of times when we have a culture of not giving feedback, we miss opportunities. We miss areas for improvement. Feedback needs to be continuous. It's part of our leader model. When we talk about reflection, we have to continuously improve. And we can't do that if we're not getting feedback, both internal and external. So let's get into the content today. And the first topic, as always, is creating an awareness of what feedback means to you. And it's shifting your mindset. Even the word feedback, as I mentioned, can put us on the defense. We have those annual reviews. Hopefully you're doing annual reviews. If not, biannual or quarterly, or just the weekly topics, one-on-ones that I suggest. You're continuously getting feedback. But what about feedback? Like every time I work with leaders, every time I'm in organizations, the feedback, just that word, like it puts people in a state of mind where they're like, oh, this is going to be bad. This isn't going to go well. And when I talk about shifting your mindset here, we need to reframe how feedback in our organizations, and it starts with you as the business owner, as the leader, on how you look at feedback. Do you view it as criticism or do you see it as insight? I had a conversation today with one of the individuals that I mentor, and he went through the interview process, got an initial interview, had a second interview, which is a fit test in the organization, and he thought he did very well. And we were talking about, okay, well, what are some things? Why do you think he did well? And I shared with him that even when I got the job, a lot of times when you don't get the position or you don't get that promotion, whether it's through a competitive process or it's just through, I'm not going to select you. Get some feedback on that. What could I have done better? What went into your decision making? How can I prepare myself for the next opportunity? All of those things are good. But what if you do get the job? Do you ever ask for feedback? That's what I'm talking about when we see feedback as like criticism. We see feedback as something that we get when we have a negative behavior or we did something that we shouldn't have done or we're poor performers. But in the end, it's our responsibility to integrate feedback into our organizations, into our team, and into our businesses, and look at it and reframe our mindset that it's insight. It's insight into how we can improve our teams, our customer experience, and really the culture that we're trying to create. So normalizing feedback is an important part here, and that's the application. So how do you normalize feedback? Again, everything starts with the leader. So ask for feedback on yourself. What do you need for me to do to support you better? How can I support you better? What are specific things that the organization is lacking in? All of those questions begin to prompt that conversation, that feedback that you as a leader, you as a business owner can use to fuel your improvement. And we're going to talk about a little bit who you receive feedback from and why it's important to recognize where that feedback is coming from. But here, it's just shifting the mindset around how the culture of your organization and your business uses the word feedback. So, what's one thing that you can do better? I'm going to challenge you. when it comes to your mindset around feedback. So that's the first. The second one we're going to talk about today, and again, get your journals out. I want you all writing these things down because, again, they're practical applications. This isn't fluff. This is based on my experience. This is my advice to you as part of the Go Be Great community. So take it for that. And if you find it useful, click on that subscribe button. Share this podcast. It would mean a lot to me. It helps us create a broader net that we can go help others get to where they're going. So the second one here that I want to introduce is seek feedback strategically. This is where you're going to be mindful of where the feedback is coming from. We have anonymous surveys that we administer after our training courses. And a lot of times it's an opportunity for someone who either doesn't agree with an instructor, one of the instructors, course content. Maybe they're just having a bad time in the location and they blast or they make negative comments on the survey. But yet there's a Likert scale, a favorability rate that we track. And if that favorability rate doesn't fall below a certain percentage, then a lot of times the Likert scale, the quantitative needs to match the qualitative. And if it doesn't, then the feedback alone that you get in the commentary, you tend to not substantiate. So when I talk about seek feedback strategically, who are your key stakeholders in your business that you seek feedback from? And how important do you rate it on a prioritization scale as far as how you address that feedback? So I use the example of the anonymous feedback, the survey. It's very hard to go back to an individual and say, hey, how can we get better if you don't know where it came? So we take that as an input into our improvement process, but it's limiting. So how are you as an organization prioritizing those key stakeholders on how you react to that feedback? Try it on. I want to take a quick break from the episode today to talk about a couple things. The first thing, less than 40% of our listeners are subscribed to our channel. You would be doing me a huge favor if you click on that subscribe button. It helps us grow our Go Be Great community and get this podcast out to as many people as we possibly can. The second thing, are you a small business owner that is drowning in the day-to-day operations? You're delegating tasks and you're still doing all the work. You're experiencing a high turnover. Maybe you don't have the systems and processes in place that you need to run a successful business. I invite you to go over to thejohnespinosa.com, fill out the form to see if you're the right fit. Now back to the episode. And a couple things here. One, you got to identify who you're currently accepting feedback from. Is it your customers? Is it internal? Do you have a continuous kind of feedback, like a Dropbox, like I call it, a comment box that people can send you feedback, a portal that they can submit feedback to on how to improve things internally, and then externally, who are those people? Create that list. And then what I want you to do is craft questions. Open-ended, not closed-ended. Closed-ended can be answered yes or no. We want those open-ended questions. And then we want to make sure that they're leading in nature and not neutral. So it really forces somebody to give an opinion or be specific around what type of feedback that they have to offer, especially if it's something that's corrective in nature. So not necessarily negative. However, there could be a process that's broken that could be improved. Maybe the response time is slow from the time that they call to the time that they get a call back. Those types of things are what I'm talking about. Ask leading questions to make sure that you're getting a good enough feedback loop for you to act on and make actionable decisions around if the process does need to change, you can change it in the right way. So seek feedback strategically. That's the second point that we need to make here when we talk about how feedback is going to fuel your growth. The last one we're going to talk about, now you got to act on it. A lot of times we get a lot of feedback, and if we're not making actionable decisions on that feedback and what it's telling us, what's the point of getting feedback? I always ask people, okay, one, how are you obtaining feedback? Who are you obtaining it from? And then what are you doing with that feedback to, again, continuously improve? And in order to continuously improve, there has to be some type of conduit to get that feedback back into the system to where you're iterating, you're changing a process. And I'm not talking about throwing the baby out with the bathwater, but change one thing and see how it impacts, and then gather some more feedback. Depending on the time, quantitative analysis tells you that the more surveys that you administer, the shorter amount of time that you need to substantiate or validate that feedback. So if you have, 1,000 customers coming through your business a day, you are going to be able to act on that information quickly. However, if you have 100 customers going through your business, it may take you 10 months to get up to that 1,000 to where you feel comfortable making a change in one of your processes or making a change in a system to where you're gonna see impact. So here you have to act on it and you have to iterate. You have to be able to be agile enough to where you can change that process or that system and then see how it impacts the feedback. So without action, feedback are just facts. Feedback is just really hyper dust that is out there. You're collecting the information, but if you're not mining the data within the feedback, which it could be commentary, it could be a rating scale, whatever that looks like for you. The 5 stars, everybody wants 5 stars. Well, you can get 5 stars or you can get 3 stars, but what's the difference? If you're not getting any commentary, if you're not getting people to actually give you a little bit of feedback on how you can improve. So here, ask, act, and then you're going to review. So you're going to ask for that feedback, you're going to act on that feedback, and then you're going to see how that impacts the process. It's very simple. It's a Kanban method. It's a quality management method. Whatever quality management system that you may have in your organization, this is going to be the foundation on questions you ask, how you act on that particular data that you're gathering, and then how you review how that data or your changes are impacting either positively or negatively those processes that you're changing. So again, your employees must see progress. Your customers must see progress. And that's the point here when we talk about acting on the data that you're gathering and then being able to be agile enough to where you can change things up. Action needs to translate into some type of growth, some type of progress. And that progress, it can be minimal at first, but it really needs to maximize the outputs to your organization. And what I mean by outputs to your organization, what you're doing in maybe training, maybe resources, additional resources that you're adding to the processes. You're going to get that call time down faster by adding more customer service agents. So that's the only way that you may be able to improve that reaction time. That's going to be a cost to your organization. So how is that impacting? Those are the 3 things that are going to really demystify the word feedback and allow you to use as a growth agent rather than view it as criticism. Don't be afraid of feedback. Make sure that feedback alone is going to be the engine in your businesses, in your organization for continuous improvement. I hope this helps somebody today. Go be great. Talk to everyone later. Bye-bye. If you like what you're hearing, do us a favor. Click on that subscribe button, give us a thumbs up, or leave a comment. That lets us know that what we are putting out benefits you. If you want additional information or resources or learn how to work with me, head on over to thejohnespinosa.com, because when we become better versions of ourselves, it helps us get others to where they're going. Go be great. Talk to everyone later.